All right, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Guys on DJ, aka Guy in the Wax, bringing you another video. So this time I want to talk real quick about just hip hop and the rap game, whatever you want to call it. Definitely, hip hop is the term I like to use for it. Even though a lot of stuff coming out now I wouldn't consider to be hip hop because of the you know way it's formatted and the way it's framed. I don't consider it to be classic hip hop. So, but what I wanted to say to young dudes getting into making beats or rapping or whatever it is you want to do related to hip hop, uh, you need to go back and look at the roots of things. Uh, a lot of young guys, I would say, like if you went to Little Yachty, well, I already know. I've seen interviews with Yachty, where he said that he don't care nothing about the founding fathers, and he don't care nothing about the history of rap or nothing like that. He just wanted to vibe and make a vibe or whatever nonsense he said. It was very disrespectful to hip hop, and it just shows the ignorance of a lot of the young rappers coming up these days. Uh, and in order to master something, or in order to you know really appreciate something and give it your all and give it your best, you have to understand the roots and the history of it. You know what I mean? Uh, so these young guys, like they don't know about Sugar Hill Records and Sugar Hill Gang and Melly Mel and a lot of the original things about hip hop. They don't know that Grandmaster Theodore discovered the baby scratch. He discovered scratching on accident. I guess his mom came into the room and he was DJing and mixing records. And when she was talking, she was telling him something, and he was moving the record back and forth. And then once she left the room, and he was like, "Man, that sounded pretty good." That moving the record back and forth, and that's how he discovered scratching, and the rest is history. But uh, it's a lot of old school people like what's his name? Gil Scott Heron was kind of like the beginnings of hip hop. Songs like Angel Dust and things like that. Uh, Gil Scott Heron or Heron, however you want to call him. Um, he was a rapper. Like if you see some of the interviews he did, the way he would do the interview, even responding to questions, was in rhyming prose, rhyming rhymes. So he was like the genesis or the beginning of the rapper. A lot of these young dudes don't know about that kind of stuff. And you have to do your due diligence and your research. For the longest time, like when I was a young kid, uh, I was listening to Wu Tang, Tupac, Biggie, a lot of the popular rappers today. I heard some underground, like I heard Bone Thugs and Harmony before they came out at a record shop that used to sell like underground bootleg tapes and stuff like that. So I knew about Bone Thugs and Harmony before they hit mainstream. Uh, what else? Just understanding the history of hip hop and understanding where what you're trying to do comes from is very important, uh, to having respect for it and for mastering it. You know what I mean? And I just don't see that from a lot of the young dudes. Um, Even like if you want to be a music producer, say you don't want to be a rapper, say you want to be a producer, you really should try to learn the history of you know where what you want to do comes from. My bad if I made noise. You should learn about the history about what you want to do comes from. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes into history of producing. You know, a lot of the producers started out as DJs. The DJ turned into the producer. So like for example, like the dude Easy Mo B, he DJs on Twitch on the weekends almost every night. But he DJs. I'm sure he did it even more hard body uh, back in the day. Before he started producing like that. Uh, he collected records. Record collecting and things like that. Like a lot of these young guys that make these little trap beats on Fruity Loops and things like that, they don't collect records. They don't have a turntable. They don't, DJ. They don't do none of that stuff. They're just making some music on Fruity Loops. They get something that sounds good. They mumble rap over it, and then boom, that's it. That's her song. Uh, that's kind of how Lil Yachty got discovered. That's what he was doing. He wasn't no crate digger. He didn't collect records and record dig and don't know old school records. He don't know how about Bob James and who was sampled. And I'm not trying to like show off or nothing like that, but like it's the real fact of hip hop. You have to have a certain knowledge of the history, in order to truly respect it and in order to give it your all. And I'm sure he's making money, in hip hop or in mumble rap, whatever it is you might call with somebody like that. I know he's kind of like falling off lately, but when he was doing this thing, Lil Yachty, I'm talking about, he made money. He's probably a millionaire now. And it's only because the audience that he has doesn't know either. They don't understand where hip hop comes from and how it started and the soul and the emotion that went into it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was fun for those cats back then doing that, but they put themselves into their music. You know what I mean? And they got monetized and whatever. But what I was saying about me being younger, listening to Tupac and Biggie, like I didn't have. The internet was just starting around that time, so America Online and stuff like that. And we didn't have the information collection, on the internet that there is today. Yeah, we had the internet, but it was still in its infancy, so there wasn't that much stuff up on there. People were still putting up websites. People were still gathering data and putting it in certain places. We didn't have Google back then. I remember when Yahoo first came out, you know what I mean? And what a big deal that was. And then, certain point Google came along and knocked them out the frame, but we didn't have Google back then to just type in something and boom, there it is. You had to really search on the internet to find information and things like that. But yeah, the information these kids have access to now, there's no excuse for not understanding the history of hip hop and where it comes from, Like I just started reading this book right here. This book, and a book like this really details some of the beginnings of hip hop and DJs turning into producers, and some of the names from early production. These young guys need to read stuff like this. They need to comprehend what they're doing, where it comes from, and how it's done and how it started. Like for example, like how hip hop went from live instruments. So like Sugar Hill Records, a lot of their stuff was live instruments, and then the sampler came out, and people were able to sample drum patterns and things like that. And then people like Marley Marl, really honed in on sampling, and started sampling parts of the records and more than just the break beat, but they would sample with a melody and things like that, and then they started with the betterment or the improvement of the technology, the samplers and the drum machines. They were able to layer, more tracks on top of each other, and the drum track, and then the melody and the bass and things like that, So you got to understand where it comes from. You know what I mean? But yeah, what I was saying was like, so it went from that, then it went from live instruments, then to samplers and things like that. And then a group like The Roots, why are they called The Roots? Because their band, their drums and their, music and their, the music of their music, besides, Black Thought's rapping or MCing, comes from live instruments. So they went back to the roots. But a lot of people don't even know that's why they're called the Roots, you know what I mean? And definitely these young boys don't know it, you know what I mean? So, you gotta look into the history of things, look into why this is done a certain way or how it came about, one of the things that I, knowing a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about, I have an appreciation for the technology that I have today. I see these cats come on like on Reddit forums and stuff like that, and they complain about these modern MPCs, and it's like, dude, do you know what like the cats back in the '80s had to deal with? You know, as far as what they could do and things like that. Like this thing is incredible compared to what they had. You know, I got a touch screen on this thing. You know, I got plugins where I can, you know, play different synthesizers and stuff like that, pianos, organ, you know, different effects, bass sounds, you know, all on this board with this keyboard. And even if you just have the MPC Live 2 or MPC 1 with the pads, you know, you can do a lot of stuff with these things, and they're so feature packed. There's nothing you can't do musically with a modern MPC. You know what I mean? I mean, even my Roland SP404 Mark II, like, it's a lot you can do with that. You know, they put a sound generator on there. They've got looping on there now where you can, you know, loop and resample, or you can resample and things like that. Like, the technology we have access to nowadays, you know, is so much far beyond what they started out with, you know. And they made really good music back then with what little they had. But how can you appreciate this if you don't understand the history of where people who were making music before you, what they dealt with and things like that, you know? But what I was saying was, like, you know, the guys on Reddit, they complain about this equipment and the few bugs that it has here and there, and the little quirks and issues that they have. And it's like, you know, bro, like, you know, be appreciative. Like, I always comment a lot of times, like, you know, I'm appreciative of what this modern MPC has to offer, you know, because I understand what people used before me who were trying to make music and making beats, even just for fun or whatever they might have been doing it for, you know, even professionally, you know. They had a lot of hoops to jump through. They didn't have stems. They couldn't, you know, take a record and pull the drums out or pull the vocals out. They had to really finagle and do different things to get certain things to work and to sound good, you know. But if you don't know about that stuff, you know, you just looking at what you see in front of you, which is kind of short-sighted and almost kind of ignorant in a way. You know, it's like, you know, just because you were born in, you know, 1999 or 2000 or whatever, and by the time you came to an age where you would even be interested in something like this, you know, MPC 1 was out, or MPC 2000 XL was out, or whatever might have been out, you know, like, yeah, be appreciative of what we have, you know, like, this stuff is not perfect, you know, nothing computerized is going to be, which is why I don't think you should get a Neuralink or no brain chips or nothing like that in your head, because computers are not perfect. They never will be. I work in IT. Computers are not perfect, you know. They do strange things out of the blue for God knows why reason, who knows what frequency hit them, or radio signal hit the CPU and cause a change in this, you know, signal it was sending to this part of the computer and cause this to mess up. Like, who knows, you know, but they do freaky things and they trip out sometimes, you know, and an MPC is no different. So, but overall, it's very stable. You know, you can make music with it, and you can do a lot with it musically, you know. So, but yeah, as far as, you know, from hip hop, I mean, from MCing to DJing to producing, you know, you have to appreciate the history and where we came from and where we are now, you know. We're very blessed as people who are interested in this right now in these day and times. I'm sure it's only going to even get better as far as the technology goes, you know. The stems algorithms are going to get cleaner and sharper. You know, they're going to be able to separate the different parts of a song even better as time goes along. You know, people are complaining about the standalone MPC stems, and it's like, well, bro, like, you know, we didn't have this stuff, you know, not too long ago, and the way even at where it is right now, you know, it's really good. You know, like, you can separate different parts of a song and make something with those parts, you know, like, you can do it, you know, and it's not like it sounds terrible, you know. Sometimes it can be pretty bad, but even those are kind of usable in a certain type of way, depending on how creative you can get with them, you know. But for the most part, it can be pretty clean. You know, if you're a DJ, Serato DJ Pro and Algorithm DJ and things like that, their stem separation is pretty clean. You know, you can take a vocal from one song and layer it to the music of another song and do your own remix, or you can, you know, take the drums out of one song and put the drums from another song on that song and the vocals or whatever, and do your own remix, you know. So the technology is amazing, but how can you appreciate it? You know, you get kind of entitled. You know, a lot of these cats are entitled, you know, like they don't understand where things came from, so they can't appreciate where they are now or even where they're going, you know. But yeah, so that's all I want to say in this video. I hope I don't take too long. I know I was talking for a minute, but definitely, you know, study the history of hip hop, study the history of MCing, of DJing, of producing. Even if you're a graffiti artist or a break dancer, you know, if you're doing that in today's modern time, look at the history of it and see where it came from, where, you know, who started it, who are the names, who are the pioneers and things like that. You know, there's graffiti artists that are very well known from hip hop. I can't think of the name of this one cat. KRS-One mentions him all the time, but I guess he was a popular graffiti artist in New York at a certain time. You know, learn about those dudes, you know, like learn about what they did and what their techniques were and why they chose a certain spot to graffiti, you know. But anyway, so that's it for the video. Have a good one. Peace out.